Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we'll be talking about No Time to Die as the final trailer for this film set to come out in the beginning of October after many months of delay and a massive, one of the largest budgets that I've seen, especially in the last year and a half for any film, and what I think of the trailer and what I think the box office situation for this film is going to be. But before going any further, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching on Odyssey. Also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. All right, so No Time to Die. The new trailer has come out, and overall, I will say I actually liked the trailer. I thought the trailer was very well crafted. I think that as far as selling the film, selling the concept goes, that it did a pretty effective job. I think that most normie-type audiences who are going to see that trailer in a theater, for the ones that are actually going to a theater, and I think that is kind of the biggest issue that this film has going forward, is that you still have a lot of people not going to the movies anymore because it seems to me that a lot of the films that are being released just aren't really driving a lot of interest. We'll start to have a better idea this weekend with films like Shang-Chi, another Marvel film. Will it be another underperforming Marvel film like Black Widow was previously, or will it possibly surprise? I have my doubts. We already have the box office tracking, and again, this is going to get updated probably sometime today or tomorrow, but the initial tracking on the film had it making only 35 to 55 million opening weekend domestically, 100 to 165 million dollars total domestically, meaning that worldwide you're looking at a film that's going to max out maybe around 300 million dollars, and that's, I think, being a little bit generous, seeing that a film like Black Widow is just underneath $400 million worldwide, and that still wasn't enough to make up for its massive budget. No Time to Die is going to be in a very precarious situation as well because it cost even more than any other Marvel film in the last several years, because the projected budget on the film, as it says here, is $250 to $301 million. And that's, again, just the projected budget, not marketing. And when you add in the delays, that marketing cost is probably going to be higher than what the standard marketing cost would be. But you're looking at a film that, on the high end, cost around $450 million total when you add in those marketing costs, because typically films will spend half of what they would spend on their budget. And so therefore you add on top of that, in the case of $300 million, another $150 million, and that would be the absolute total amount that would have been spent all in all. So $450 million on the last of the Daniel Craig James Bond movies. And I will say this much, the one positive thing that it has going for it at this point is that, one, it seems that they are pretty committed to this coming out. They are also very much focused on how this will be exclusively in theaters. So that is obviously something that they are going to really put a lot of their, eggs in that basket. I do expect that this film will do relatively well in markets like the UK and other European markets. Compared to other films, though, obviously I would say that they're not going to do nearly as well because the box office is just down all around. Domestically, I would say that this is probably going to be one of the better performing films of the year. Again, just looking at what films have performed well, if a film like Jungle Cruise can pass $100 million domestically, I would say No Time to Die, especially because it is an established franchise. It also features Daniel Craig, who is a well-known entity at this point, and in general, people like this version of James Bond. Now, I'm not talking about any diehard James Bond fans. Obviously, a lot of them kind of have mixed feelings about it, right? There's obviously every different camp in the James Bond universe. Some people like the Pierce Brosnan one. Others think it's terrible. Some people think that Sean Connery is the only Bond. And then others like me I think Timothy Dalton was actually the best Bond, even though he only had 2 films. And it was sad that he wasn't given more time. I've also been a pretty, relatively big fan of the Daniel Craig films. I thought Casino Royale was one of the best of the Bond films ever to be made, just on an objective level. Just the storytelling, everything about it was just really solid. And then I thought Quantum of Solace was one of the worst James Bond films to ever be made, objectively speaking, as well. And then it came back with things like Skyfall, which I thought was also fantastic, was able to again, continue to show Roger Deakins' ability to produce some amazing cinematography. And I think that is one thing that I took away from this specific trailer, is that the cinematography on this actually looks really, really good. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to be able to bring about as far as the action sequences, which also look great. Obviously, there's some use of CGI, but it wasn't really coming across as being too artificial. And one of the things that I do like about the Bond franchise, most especially in modern times, is their ability to continue what was done in the originals, which is to continue to do stunts, to continue to have, big set pieces, to use various stunt teams as well, because you all know I'm a big fan of stunt teams, and especially when they're kind of given time to shine, I think it's a pretty good thing. The cinematography, by the way, done by someone named Linus Sandgren, who I don't know much about. Trying to see here what he has done previously in the past. Looks like he has done films like La La Land and Joy, American Hustle. So again, films that I don't think were very good, but cinematography-wise, they were absolutely fine. He also did First Man, which I have a love-hate relationship with, actually, a little bit, because it was a very well-shot film, but there's also a lot of shaky cam, especially in the rocket, which I know one could argue is them trying to have the realism of what it would actually be like to be in takeoff, but it does have an impact as an audience member when you're watching it in that way. But going back to No Time to Die, as I said, I think the trailer does what it's supposed to do, right? A trailer is meant to try and get people pumped, get people excited for the movie, and I think it did a very good job, and I think it was also able to do so without relying too much on any of the perceived, and I think rightly so, concern that some audience members have, especially fans have, that it's going to try and turn it into some type of woke agenda type movie. The big thing, of course, as to why people believe that is because of the fact they brought on Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and it is said that she was brought on to, quote, make this more in line with the hashtag #MeToo era. This is not just some conspiracy. This is not just something that people are making up. This is a part of what has been revealed about the actual process of the film itself. You have a theme song by Billie Eilish, who I really don't care all that much about, but hey, she is a pretty big name, and that's a pretty standard thing for them to go with, kind of the hot songwriter or star at the time whenever they are releasing these types of films. And I'm trying to see if I can find what it actually talks about here with the bringing on of people like Phoebe Waller-Bridge, as it says right here, at Daniel's request. So let's go ahead and jump into it. It says, at Daniel Craig's request, Phoebe Waller-Bridge provided a script polish in April 2019. Waller-Bridge was hired to revise dialogue, work on character development, and add humor to the script. Once again, not really known for her humor, I will say. Waller-Bridge is the second female screenwriter credited for writing a James Bond film after Joanna Harwood co-wrote Dr. No and From Russia with Love. Barbara Broccoli was questioned about the Me Too movement at Bond 25 launch event, where she said that Bond's attitude towards women would move with the times and the films should reflect that. In a separate interview, Waller-Bridge argued that Bond was still relevant and that he needs to be true to his character, instead suggesting that it was the films which had to grow and evolve, emphasizing the important things that the film treats women properly. So again, you can kind of see the connections being made there, that she was obviously brought on by Craig not to try and make the script more funny. And again, people don't go to a James Bond film for comedy. They go for the fun action sequences, right? There's a certain aura about James Bond that people are going to be going for, not to have, this character be polished up and rewritten by someone trying to make it, again, more in line with the Me Too era or anything like that. But again, a little bit of that could have been seen in the trailer as the introduction of Lashana Lynch's 00 agents. So there is, again, that establishment that she is a new 00 agent. The only issue that I really have, honestly, with Lashana Lynch is not even the fact that they're making her 00 agent, because I know that some people do have an issue with that, because there's a concern of, are they going to try and make her the new 007? Again, keep in mind that it is a code name, and also that she's not becoming in a way the new James Bond, at least not that we're aware of. Of course, things could happen, and it would not surprise me at all if for any reason they tried to go in that direction, but I'm going to be honest, it would be a massive failure if they did, and I think even they, as crazy as Hollywood is these days, would still not go quite that far to destroy their franchise by pushing it in a direction that, again, fans don't really want to see. When you're a fan of the James Bond franchise, you go to watch James Bond and all of the things that he gets involved with, not let's now have a female portrayal of that, because there's other films that have actually done a female spy, and I think that they've done it pretty well. And so it's, instead of, kind of appropriating a film or a concept, it would be a lot better to create your own. Right, to create your own IP, to create your own new character. There's nothing wrong with doing that. The issue that I have and a lot of others have is when you take an established franchise and then try to spin it into something that it is not. But the issue, going back to it, the real issue that I have with Lashana Lynch is that I don't find her to be a very good actress. She's a very wooden, stoic actress. This was very much on display in Captain Marvel, and just in the little time that she is seen in this movie, it's the same thing, right? It's just like, no. Have you, because James Bond at one point says, have you ever, flown one of these before? And she's like, no. And obviously one could say that's the direction that she was given, but it doesn't give me a lot of confidence that she's going to give a very dynamic performance. And obviously Daniel Craig, in his performance as well, is very wooden and stoic as well. But again, that is the iteration of the Bond character that they're trying to go with here. But just based on the fact that in all the films up to this point, right, Captain Marvel being really the only main one that I've seen Lashana Lynch in, and now the trailers for this one, having the same characterizations makes me wonder whether or not she has any dynamic range. At the very least, with Daniel Craig, I can go back to, what is it, A Kid in King Arthur's Court? Yeah, Daniel Craig in A King Arthur's Court. Go ahead, look it up. It's a lot of fun. You can see clearly, guess what? He's got some range. A much younger Daniel Craig being a very different type of person. Also, speaking in a way that you can actually understand the words that he's saying. So it's actually not the way he speaks, it's the way in which he's told to speak, or the character he chooses that determines whether or not you can understand him. Rami Malek is coming in as the villain, and I think that obviously he's not a very scary villain in the way of, a macho, like, gonna try and, fight them, one-to-one. But I think Rami Malek is always able to really play, like, a psychotic character very well. He's got those crazy eyes, right? If you know what I mean. So I think that he is actually a pretty good choice here for a villain, because he'll be really able to play up that crazy very, very well. You also have Christoph Waltz coming back, and I'm kind of a sucker for Christoph Waltz. Even though he's in movies, Spectre, for instance, was not a very good Bond film or film in general. Christoph Waltz was one of the best parts of the movie, though, because it's Christoph Waltz. It's very hard for him to do anything that is not any good whatsoever. But those are just my thoughts on the trailer. I think that in the end, it's going to bring in a lot more people to go see the film, but ultimately it's not going to be enough. This is a film that is destined to fail by the fact that they've tried to sell this property off. They've tried to do everything they can to make as much money off of this, even before the film actually comes out. I think at this point now, right, this development of the film started back in 2016. As you can see, this film has been delayed now for at least like a year or two as far as its release goes. Having that massive budget, though, $450 million potentially for it to have spent on it, means that this film needs to essentially get relatively close to $1 billion to break even, looking more so, I guess, to $850 million worldwide to break even, meaning this film has to be the highest grossing film of the pandemic era. And the chances of that happening, based on what we've seen from recent films, I just don't really see as being a possibility. So even though it could be one of the highest grossing films of the year, raw numbers wise, when it comes to the actual raw net gain profit, this film seems destined to flop. But those are just my thoughts. What are your thoughts on this movie? Let me know in the comment section below. Did you like the trailer? Again, I thought that actually the trailer was pretty good, pretty fun. It featured the cars, featured the action, featured Bond being Bond. Yeah, they had a couple of moments where they were like, oh, look, Lashana Lynch, new 00 agent. But again, it was pretty minimal and pretty inoffensive from what I could tell with it. So I'm not the most diehard of James Bond fans. I've finally able to watch all the original James Bond movies. But overall, I think that if I didn't know a lot of the things going on behind the scenes, especially with Phoebe Waller-Bridge being brought on, I might actually be excited for this. But obviously, we know that there's going to be a lot more going on here, and I would say that we should definitely approach this film with some caution as far as the agenda that might be pushed in the overall story, especially with, again, Phoebe Waller-Bridge being brought in to be a screenwriter. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching Odyssey, and also make sure you subscribe to the channel. You guys are all amazing, beautiful people. Shout out. Again, this is September. I will have my September Patreon update video coming out in the next couple of days as things are getting processed on Patreon, etc. But a shout out to Gomer Kyle79, who is indeed a Patreon member. You guys rock. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my August Locals, Patreon, and Subscribe Star members. Starting off with my Locals crew: Cats App, The Real It, D Sharp, Biffer the Hobbit, Robert Barnes, and Goblin Squatch. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on Locals. And now on to my Patreon members: Andrew Hoyle, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Dion, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father. Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Lance, Laura, the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Allen, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and Tina B, the Empress of the Universe. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Patreon. And lastly, to my Subscribe Star peeps, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, John B, Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. And a shout out to one new member, Hannibal Grimm. And a huge shout out to newest members, Brandon and Joe Horn. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Subscribestar, and to everyone for supporting me on these platforms. Also, a shout out to all of my YouTube members. You get shouted out at the end of every single live stream. And if you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and every video, please check out my locals Patreon Subscribestar. And you can go ahead and find those links in the top link of this description. You can find it's called the Willow link, and it'll have a list to literally all of the social media platforms and all of the different ways that you can support the channel. If you join at the $1 level, you can actually get your name shouted out at the end of every single video and live stream. $5 level gives you that, plus you get access to exclusive giveaways of 4K titles. Right now, I've got tons of 4K steelbooks to give away this month, including for Top Gun. I also have A Quiet Place Part 2. I have Snatch on 4K, the John Wick trilogy on 4K, and also I have a Sicario 4K disc as well, and a bunch of others that are going to be coming in this month too. So if you want to have access to any of those types of exclusive giveaways, join at the Army of Asgard level. At the $10 level, the Keeper of the Bifrost level, you get all of that, plus you get access to exclusive behind-the-scenes videos, including instant reactions when I go to see movies. I do quick little filmings of myself and talk about the films that I have seen and my instant reactions to that. You also get access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger once or twice a month, and you get to also ask us any question that you want. We put a Q&A post up, and you get to ask us whatever it is that you want to ask. So again, if that sounds cool to you, Keeper of the Bifrost level. And lastly, there is the Chosen of Valhalla level, where you get all of that stuff, plus in your first month as a Chosen of Valhalla member, you get a free t-shirt, your choice, ship it anywhere in the world, and also you get to once a month be featured on the OMB Reviews channel, and you get to talk with me. We usually chill out for 3 to 4 hours, and I ask everyone what they've been watching, what they want to talk about, what they want to promote, and it's always a really good time. And so if that sounds interesting to you, please consider joining. That is going to be on Subscribestar and on Patreon only, as Locals is just the Keeper of the Bifrost level. But anyway, thank you all very much for your time, for your support, and for listening to this shout-out video. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.